So Jack and the Giant Slayer, huh? Huh?
I didn't see that. Like I heard it was not that great.
I think that looked like a bomb from like
Ewan
first
McGregor,
preview.
come on.
Sorry?
Ewan McGregor's in it.
I do like Ewan
Still,
McGregor.
it doesn't matter. That
No?
it looked
Can't
horrible.
save it?
looked
Can't save
horrible.
it?
Well, just the whole, come on. It just didn't, fairy tale, warped fairy tale. Let's try and make it cool, Lord of the Rings-ish. But we're going to throw in these really lame jokes for the kids. It just didn't look like, it looked like a whole bunch of ideas that just didn't settle. And
What's really crazy to me is what happened to Bryan Singer, because, like, remember he was like, he did X-Men. It was like, oh my god, the guy's the craziest dude. And then all of a sudden,
let's go back all the way back.
Okay, yeah.
Usual Suspects.
Yeah, no, yeah.
And then that was pre-1990. Was that pre-98? Is that it? That was 90. And
Bryan Singer wrote that?
no, he directed.
Oh, he
it.
directed that?
Yeah,
directed.
Usual Suspects.
Really?
Usual
So
Suspects.
that guy really sucks now.
And then he directed Adult Pupil, the one with
Yeah,
People, yeah.
that was
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
and that was
pretty
like
good.
that was Magneto, awesome.
Yeah.
And I
was
was
that
like,
Brendan Fraser, too?
no.
Am I thinking of
What you're
something?
thinking of is what's that movie? He's a Jewish kid in school. Remember?
Yeah, School
Yo,
Ties.
Yeah,
with
yeah.
Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
Matt
good one.
Damon.
Totally different movie.
Yeah,
Totally
different
different
movie. But and then he did Valkyrie, did X-Men.
Yeah,
he did
Valkyrie
Superman.
sucked.
Yeah, wasn't that great?
X-Men 1, good. X-Men 2,
He tried to
good.
justify, like, we're going to do a German movie without German accents. I was like, I don't.
You
I
can't
don't
do
get
that.
this. Tom Cruise without a
See,
German accent.
what's really funny is actually it's really funny because what Andrew pointed out to me when that movie was coming out was he was like, well, it's not like these guys were like thought that Hitler was bad, wanted to get rid of him. They just wanted to win the war better. They're still Nazis. They still wanted to do what he was doing, just like
Still supremacists.
They just wanted to do it better.
Yeah, they thought he was crazy.
Yeah.
He was trying to find mythical objects and whatnot
Actually,
as what they were telling
What
us.
was really
Cult.
what was really awesome though was I remember reading one of the old Unknown Soldier issues, and it was all about like an unknown soldier dressing up as one of those guys and trying. He's the one who put the bomb there, and
Well, that's cool.
it was drawn by
Little-
Joe Kubert. It was like,
Little
so good.
alternate history
Yeah.
going on there.
We need more of that. I like Andre's idea before with the Ultimates. They should Uncle Ben alive and kill Aunt May. So
Yeah, they do a what? It must be a what if somewhere.
I'm sure, but those are not very. The most
What ifs are only one
bad.
issue sometimes, and
that's
it's
true.
not the
very
greatest.
good.
But
That's fair,
Yeah,
that's fair.
terrible. Anyways, welcome everyone to the Heroes World podcast. We're here as always with Neil Speakman, Andre Greenwich, and Justin Elliott.
How do you do?
What's up?
what's up?
Oh boy. And of course myself, Stuart Pay. So we're going to talk about some comics and different fun things this week. But first, let us start off with Neil and what is going on in the DC universe.
Well, we got a bit of a quiet week in DC. Lots of books, but no real standouts. However, a couple of that I want to talk about in particular. So I'm just going to go through the pile and fill you guys in on what's coming out, and then we'll go into a little bit of detail about some of the books I'm really looking forward to. First off, we've got Animal Man and Swamp Thing 18, both their own issues.
Nice.
Animal Man, I think, is now kind of past the Rot World storyline, so it's now going down its own road, whereas Swamp Thing, if I'm not mistaken, this could be Snyder's last issue on Swamp Thing, so it's sort of like an epilogue tying up the loose ends that he wanted to tie up while also sort of setting the table for the next writer. I did read this issue, was actually very impressed. Yannick Paquette is back on art, and he was sort of the guy who made the book helped make the book what it
he
was
started
with
at,
Snyder.
he was the first guy.
So I highly recommend that. And that, like I said, it's not. I don't think it's now. If you were reading Rot World and reading both books, you don't have to read both books anymore. Batman Detective Comics 18 is basically the first book to come out, which deals with the fallout from last week's shocker in Batman Inc., which deals with Robin's untimely death. This issue is called Requiem, and as you might imagine, Batman's dealing with the fallout while still trying to fight crime. So there's plenty of potential for things to go awry. He's pretty angry right now, so lots to look forward in that book. We've also got The Legends of the Dark Knight #6, which has been a really kind of cool, fun book. A little more. Kind of reminds me a lot of the Batman animated series in the sort of its tone and the way it's written and the art for it. Earth 2 #10 is also out this week. Basically, if you remember, I mentioned how Dr. Fate was sort of re-debuting, or his version, Earth 2 version of him debuted a couple issues ago, and now the Tower of Fate storyline is beginning. He's basically, Dr. Fate's going to take a very sort of alpha role in this universe, very powerful. And basically, he's going to kind of be the guy guiding the storyline for the next few issues. There's also Green Arrow number 18, which is one of the books I do want to mention, so I'll kind of just mention that in passing right now. Green Lantern 18, which is Jeff Johns' second issue, but part 5 of the Wrath of the First Lanterns, which deals with Green Lantern Corps, Green Lantern New Guardians, and Red Lantern. So this is the book that Johns is writing himself, although he is basically steering the ship for the whole event. There's also Smallville number 11, which is basically the continuing adventures of that show. Very popular book at our store. Superman 17, which was pushed back a week, was supposed to come out last week, but it's snuck in this week. And it's basically the conclusion to the Hell on Earth storyline, which has been ongoing in both this book and I believe Superboy and Supergirl as well. So if you have been reading that, you definitely want to pick up this issue because everything kind of wraps up nicely in that. And finally, Amakami Girls number 1, which is another book I'm going to kind of talk about. I might as well talk about it now since this is the last book. I did read the 5-issue mini series that sort of came out. Now, this is originally a digital series that is now coming to print, and it's written by Palmiotti and Gray, who are the two writers who work on All-Star Western, which is essentially one of my favorite books. I really like this book, not only for the art. It's like a totally different take on sort of female superheroes. It's like pretty much an all-female superhero book, led by Wonder Woman. You got Catwoman, Batgirl, Robin, Supergirl, Power Girl. And it's just a really fun, kind of like anime style book. Definitely geared towards a younger audience. And it's, like I said, it's just a fun book. There's nothing too serious in it. It looks like the issues are kind of one-shots. They probably will tell a storyline, a full storyline throughout. But reading first issue and having read the previous miniseries, very impressed with the work. The art's great, and then Palmiotti and Gray are they've done really good stuff with All-Star Western, in my opinion, so I have high hopes for this one in the long run as well. Getting back to talking about Green Arrow, the reason why I wanted to mention this essentially is because Jeff Lemire, who was the writer on Animal Man, and he's sort of one of the hot up-and-coming writers. He's good buds with Scott Snyder, and he's also Canadian. He has taken over Green Arrow. He took over in issue 17, and issue 17 was I hadn't really been reading the series. I'd picked up the odd issue here and there. Wasn't very impressed. But now that Lemire's writing it with art from Andrea Sorrentino, who worked on I believe I, Vampire.
Yeah.
Her art style is fantastic, and the merging of her art style with Lemire's storytelling. Again, if you have any experience with Lemire, he's kind of does really well with the kind of the dark and twisted stuff. And this book has instantly gone from, forgettable to I really think this is going to become one of our top books.
I'm kind of finding it almost to be like DC Universe's version of kind of like Bendis' Daredevil run.
Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see the parallels there.
It's gritty enough, like kind of like interesting to look at, as well as the stories kind of like matching that in tone
and this no way coincides with the TV show. Or
no, this kind of stands on its own. I think the only similarity is that they did make the Green Arrow character younger, his sort of younger self. So he's still young in this.
He's still missing a beard, is what we're saying.
Yeah, he's still not classic Ollie.
Okay.
So, but there's no link with the Arrow book, which we also sell in the store. This one is basically kind of Green Arrow getting back to being kind of the cool Green Arrow that we know from the comics. And also to sort of follow up, the art style also kind of reminded me a lot of the Winter Soldier in terms of being very dark, that kind of, in the shadows. So, 2 issues in, very, very, very cool series. And finally, just want to mention one of my favorite books that's come out in the last couple of years. I mentioned Red Wing a couple of weeks ago, and we sold out of that in no time. This week, we've got the Scott Snyder, Scott Tuft, and with art by Attilo Futaki. It's Severed, which was an 8-issue horror story, essentially, about a young runaway in 1930s who meets up with this... let's call him a character, pretty bad dude. And it's just one of those fantastic sort of edge of your seat, goosebumps on your arms type of read. I don't want to spoil it because I highly, highly recommend it. But, one look at the art in this book, should sell you. Not to mention the fact that Scott Snyder is the writer. So, come on in. We got a few trade paperbacks on this one. Highly, highly, highly recommend this one.
And also, I'd say it's about one of the scariest times in human history. Like, the kind of Depression era with
Yep.
guys riding boxcars and hobos.
Yep. There's a lot of that's perfect word. There's a lot of desperation in this book, and it just sort of seeps through. Even like the beautiful sort of idyllic daytime scenes in the middle of the Midwest or whatever. There's that cloud kind of hanging over everything, and then it's also part and parcel to how Snyder writes. He's just very good at sort of injecting that sort of ominous kind of tone in his stuff, and it's
the right era because people can disappear very easily and no one would know the wiser.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely.
One. Justin, what do you got for us on the Marvel side of things?
Again, this is kind of a big Marvel week.
What isn't a big Marvel week?
Apparently, every week is just a big Marvel week.
Yeah.
That's
Marvel's
their plan.
churning out the books.
They're showmen. They really know how to make some explosions and pyrotechnics. It may not always be flash.
They know how to stand out in the crowd. They definitely do.
It may not be good substance, but it's going to be
not always, but it has been so far.
Actually, first and foremost, what's really crazy is the 90s have returned.
Nice.
Because the first book I mentioned, and we'll talk about this book a little bit later as well, is the Age of Ultron crossover. It's just started, and it hits straight on the shelf with a chromium cover.
Nice.
Which is crazy.
Embossed.
Embossed.
It has texture.
Yeah. What's really crazy, too, is the variant covers are the ones that are just normal comics. So you're like, this is weird.
Yep.
But yeah, will be discussed in a bit. Also this week we have A plus X, number 5. I'll be talking about this one later. This is actually one of the ones I really liked. As well as All New X-Men, number 8. And Avengers, number 7. Now, again, those are the 3 books that are going to be kind of going over a bit more in depth. This week we also have Cable and X-Force, number 5. Again, book's been kind of interesting.
I'm personally still waiting for it to take off a bit, but they've done a nice job to separate it from the previous Uncanny X-Force, make it its own
thing. It's in the
thing.
characters.
And it exactly fits the characters that are in it.
And it's the dynamic. I will say you're right, Neil. It feels like it's a little bit maybe stiff right now.
Yes.
And hopefully they'll get they'll find their legs.
They're going to go somewhere eventually.
Yeah.
Great cover for this issue, though.
Also this week we have Iron Man, number 7. And again, AVX Aftermath God Killer. And I don't know, for me, this book holds a very special place in my heart this week because of the last page, so I can't talk about it really because it's the last page. So if you're reading Iron Man, check it out. If you're not, check out come in and check it out. Cause
Justin, it's going to be something really weird.
It's going to be awesome.
And this book has actually, I would say, recently kind of found its footing. I think we were all kind of, not going to say questioning what it was doing and what direction it was taking, but the last couple of issues I've been very impressed with.
Yeah, I've been on this Iron Man since day one.
I don't want to call it a stripped down Iron Man, but it seems like they've kind of shed some of the excess weight from the previous storylines and are
more accessible.
It's a bit more, absolutely.
Yep.
Also this week we have Daredevil End of Days 6 of 8. Again, this is the book that's kind of how Bendis would wrap things up. A really great homage page in this book overall, and it just keeps getting more and more intense and more interesting to me to read. So, again, every single word I'd say after what I just said is a spoiler. So,
and it's selling like crazy anyway.
Yeah.
So you pretty much anybody who is reading it.
Yeah, if you're not reading it, you're too late to the boat.
It's like hot and cold cakes.
What?
I love them cold cakes.
Yeah. Also, this week we have Powers Bureau number 2. Again, Powers is back. If you weren't reading Powers, it's actually a really good jumping on point with issue 1 and 2 just coming out. Highly recommend you check out any of Bendis' kind of independent stuff because there's a passion there that's kind of, I wouldn't say not in his other Marvel work, but something very special to him about these books that really kind of, I feel it. I like it. I think it's pretty
freedom.
sweet.
He's got the freedom to do what he likes to do.
Also, we have a Superior Spider-Man number 5. Again, heating up. I'm liking this book a lot.
Me too.
I'm thinking it's again, an interesting way to look at Spider-Man and have the character do something I haven't really seen before or ever.
Yeah, well, it's also funny for me because, normally I have a big problem with characters who are unlikable, heroes who are unlikable, and I can't usually get behind them. But for some reason, the fact that he's unlikable is the pull, is the draw for me in this book.
There's a lot of drive going on
and it's finding out, it's him balancing that, him being a prick, but also like genuinely wanting to make this work, and wanting to be the best Spider-Man he can be, and kind of fitting in.
I don't know about best he can be. I think it's best period. Because I think he feels that Spider-Man is always underutilized.
Which is part of the prick in him, right? It's that, he's,
But isn't that the kind of thing about being a real nerd? It's I see what you're doing, but clearly I can do it better.
Yeah.
No, entirely.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how many times have you,
It's like Sheldon from Big Bang.
Yeah.
He's, no, actually, you should be doing it this way.
I watched that show, and I think I can do all of that better.
Well, that's a whole different story.
Yeah. And also, finally, this week, Marvel-wise, we have Venom number 32. Great Shane Davis cover on this book. Again, this is not one of the books I've been following like all too closely, but like as I was going through this book, kind of interesting. Flash Thompson seems to have more control over the Venom. It's on him more often than it is not on him now. So again, I think they're going somewhere. And actually, again, another kind of not, I wouldn't say it's a spoiler, but a character who I haven't seen in a while just showed up at the end of the book too. So it's actually, I'll check out the next one. It's pretty good, pretty solid.
It's good. More Flash Thompson.
It's kind of flying under the radar, but it has been a good book. It definitely has been. Even since Remender left it, it's been pretty solid.
No, yeah, exactly. But yeah, so this week, the books I was really into, A+X. The first story in this is written by Catherine Nimitz, Stuart Nimitz' wife, and drawn by David Lafuente. First time I really saw his art was he did kind of the Ultimate Comics Spider-Man when it first started up. Kind of hard to look at first, during that period, but now he's really tightened up. Art's fantastic. Story's really fun because Dupe's involved. And listen, if you're a fan of X-Force and X-Men and Wolverine and the X-Men, Dupe. You like Dupe. Dupe's awesome. And then the second story is Mr. Sinister and everyone's new favorite, Kid Loki.
Yep.
So
interesting.
I'm in.
I'm already in. Yeah.
I mean, a Kid Loki,
which is really funny because Mr. Sinister dresses like a drag queen, and kid like this little boy hanging out with a drag queen. Really, it's again really fun story. Again, this book has been nothing but fun, and also nothing but the like top talent working on these nice short stories. If you are looking for a good book to read, this A+X is one of the best ones Marvel has to offer right now.
Now, I've been reading that myself. Would that be something I could recommend to sort of younger readers?
Oh, yeah.
Because again, I get a lot of younger readers who come in and they're, some of the stuff is a little too dark, you had to have read this before.
What do you mean, Severed isn't good enough for kids under the age of 8?
Absolutely. That example.
Lordy. But overall, the thing about the book is, again, they're all just kind of short stories about an Avenger and an X-Men getting together and solving whatever's going on. Like in the first issue, it was Cable showing up back in time during World War II, and Captain America and Bucky being there, and then Bolivar Trask making Sentinels in World War II. So
Very
it's
cool.
Okay, so it's it's just fun stuff to do with these characters.
And almost it kind of sounds like a good way to introduce certain characters to people who haven't read those characters before.
And it's a nice small dose, right?
Yeah.
It's a little short story. Every issue
I really
is
like
different.
that guy. I want me to read more of him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can
Find more.
you can find out about a lot of the characters in the Marvel U that way.
And Dupe is awesome.
It reminds me totally of the old Marvel team up book.
Yeah.
But with a larger revolving cast and just independent
Love
stories.
some Marvel team up or good old fashioned Marvel 2-in-1.
Marvel 2-in-1, yes.
Serpent Society.
Very
And then also this week we had all new X-Men. The book's been killing me every week it comes out.
Yep.
It was some
It's awesome.
fun book. It's back to your punk rock X-Men. These kids not agreeing with how the world's treating them, or not agreeing with what's going on, and them having to deal with it. And then this issue kind of deals with both Angels and Hydra, and then eventually the Avengers showing up, and this really amazing young. You have to come up with another name for young Scott Summers here because there's two running around the universe. Right, so I think we need another kind of
Scotty Summers.
Yeah, Scotty.
Just sort of.
Scotty, something.
A young Scotty.
I'm over there with that. Okay.
Yeah, a young Scotty who deals with Captain America, and it's actually quite fantastic when you read it.
But now with this book, we're all enjoying this book right now. But has anybody think that? I'm going to say
the end game.
No. Yeah, the end game. Can this be kept up? How long
think
can this be
so.
kept up? Because it's a great storyline going on, and I tell you, a couple of the moments in this book that make me really cringe are the Jean Grey moments, and basically, we've seen her manifest her powers faster than she should have.
Yeah.
Taking on a lot of responsibility from it. Beast basically putting her in a position where she finds out she's
It's
dead.
it's very much a different take on what's
and her
going
take on it. And one of the hard moments for me, and I it made me think, well, Jean Grey, just looks at Cyclops and just says, "We're done," basically. And he hasn't become that man yet.
That's true.
And he's getting the raw end of the deal. And she's becoming, to me, I'm looking at her and she's becoming I think she's the threat.
She's the X Factor. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm getting that from the book too.
She's the threat in this book. I think all the X-Men, they're trying to do what's let's talk a little bit about this issue as we're going on. Like Angel from the get-go didn't want to be there. They took a vote saying, "Do we stay in this timeline?" He was the only one that didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And then in this issue, Jean's like, "Let's mind wipe this guy. Yeah, we're staying," and she wants to stay.
She's
so
got
that
an
she
agenda
doesn't
now.
die. I think that's what I'm looking at.
She's definitely got an agenda.
Well, I hope. I guess
I don't know
what I'm saying-
if you saw your future and you knew you were going to die.
Yeah. Who would?
Who would say no to this?
You know what?
But it's how she's going about it. It seems like it's almost
Like she's going about it like a selfish child because that's the whole point.
you're 16 years old, so what do you expect?
And also when you learn at what the grown-ups screwed up before you, it's now I think she's sort of got the attitude of the kid who's like, okay, my parents are fuck ups, I'm going to fix this myself.
Exactly. And that's the same thing with even with Cyclops, where even with how Cyclops acts, it's like, well, Scott, we're done. It's like, well, you're 16. It's like, you're going to go through a lot before you actually get anywhere with this.
Yep.
Okay, so you guys think it got legs?
I think
Absolutely.
It's got legs, yeah.
It's got more legs, unfortunately, than my boy Iron Lad, who only got a short run. I want to see more of him.
Rest in peace, buddy.
And the one thing also I wanted to say about this book too is I think Jason Aaron deserves a lot of credit for rebuilding the sort of the school atmosphere in Wolverine and the X-Men, and really this book
Very
has
much
sort of
so.
taken that and run with it. And the school now, you don't have to worry about it being established or who these kids are. They've already done a lot of legwork in that book, and the way that they're using this sort of the school versus Cyclops' kind of revolution in Uncanny X-Men. I really like the fact that they've kind of hit the ground running in this
Yeah,
book.
there's a very good dichotomy between
Not to mention the
both
fact that
sides.
Bendis is a master of dialogue, and he seems to be injecting each of these characters with personality just from a few lines.
No,
And-
oh my god! Like even like the last Uncanny one, it's just Emma and Scott talking to each other, and then Magic's like, "You guys back together yet?" And it's like, and I was just like, I just miss being inside your head sometimes. Like you kind of like you feel they're actually like this is how people would talk if they had these abilities. It's really kind of second nature
He
to
gets
them.
it. He absolutely gets it. Yeah.
And then also finally this week, the book. I'm not sure if everyone else heard me when I was reading this in the store today. I read it and went, "Holy crap!" because something crazy happened.
Sweet.
Yeah.
But it is a Hickman book, so
Yeah. So in Avengers, they've again
7.
Yep, they've been dealing a lot with the new man, the new man that showed up from like the first story, and now it's to the point of kind of crossing into something that that 80s Marvel tried and kind of didn't really go anywhere, and then also Warren Ellis had done more recently, and that was I think one of my favorite comics. Again, that kind of didn't really finish off the Warren Ellis version of it, but for those of you in the know, is about New Universal and that kind of like concept coming back, and the concept of just people getting powers. And if you don't know, we do have copies in the store to actually check out. It's actually quite brilliant. And in this new Avengers issue, it's just kind of going to some of those concepts, and it's got me. I'm really into kind of where this is going to be going, because I like the whole thing of the Marvel universe being big and there being a lot of stuff to it, and because I feel again, whenever I read comics and the story's over in 6 issues, it's kind of okay, I get that was kind of
a lot of times they touch on it, but then it's like, okay, we're going to tell a little story and then we're going to wrap it up. Whereas a guy like Hickman, he will fully immerse himself in this universe, and every little speck that he can kind of create a story from.
Well, the crazy thing to me I find now is it's almost like comic companies are kind of scared of continuity to a degree.
Definitely.
Where it's like,
Well, how do you hand it off to someone else when it's done?
Look, here's the
But
thing.
it should be a constantly evolving thing, right? You shouldn't be afraid of what somebody's done in the past, because that helps you. I hate to sound cheesy, but it helps you go forward.
Oh yeah, entirely.
If you don't know what somebody's done, you repeat the same thing.
It's when I started reading Spider-Man, it wasn't as if I started from Amazing Fantasy 15. It was like I started mid-90s, and then as I read more stuff, it's like, oh, I can go back and there's all this history, and it kind of makes it feel more real because there's more to it.
As a reader, but don't you feel if you're a new writer coming in over the incumbent, you feel like you have to add your own touches because you don't want to look like, hey, you're just basically riding the coattails of the guy before you.
I think it depends on the book.
About yourself.
It depends on the book and the character.
But you can still add, you can still add your own flavor to a character without, like, entirely rewriting their history to make it have it suit your needs, right? That's not.
Or if you don't know the history and you rewrite it and you say, well, that's the same. You did the same thing, except you used a different splash of color here. You know what I mean? I think the history, what I'm saying is I think guys need to, writers, artists, whatever, they do have to know a little bit about what came before, because then it gives them credit,
and why,
right?
too.
And why too. You can't be just like, oh, hey, I'm gonna just write a comic and I don't know anything about the character or the backstory. Oh, I read him on Wikipedia. I got this. Read a couple story arcs, see why it's
an example of that for me would be like Captain America, how Brubaker essentially kind of mastered the character, and then basically we knew he was going off the book and somebody else was jumping on, and it was that, well, are they gonna continue where Brubaker left off and keep telling that kind of story, or are they gonna try to do something different? And I think in theory he could, the new writer could have gone either way and it would have worked. Because again, Brubaker had set the table so well that he could have just taken morsels from that.
With Winter Soldier, you could have just told World War II stories and kind of Marvel Universe espionage stories and been fine.
Yes.
The fact that you kind of decided, hey, let's use what's been built upon and kind of move forward with that makes it only that much better and more interesting for those who again were reading the book. And again, if you haven't been reading, then you have that thing of I want to go back and learn more about this.
Yeah,
and
that's what continuity does. If you don't have it, you can't keep running away from it.
I think that's the true nature of someone who's into comics and into stuff. It's is that level of I want to go back and learn about this. I want to go back and figure out what happened here and kind of why this should be why this character is the way they are. That's kind of what really makes you love comics. You love comics when your first thought is what issue did that happen in? I want to read that. I got to find that. That's how you know you're into comic books.
But in the flip side of that too, I think the DC's New 52 was they knew that going in. It was there's all this continuity we have to deal with, and if we're going to attract new fans, we've got to
clean house a little bit.
Kind of clean the slate a little bit, give them a jumping on point. So if they say I really like this character, it's not so much I got to go back and read this. It's no, you just keep reading this book. Keep reading what you're liking.
Actually, a couple of things
and
too,
it will tell the story for you.
They just announced that Pandora book they're going to be doing for is it Zealot? Pandora looks like Zealot, right? No?
She does look a little bit like a Coda, but isn't she looks like Zealot, but I think she's literally Pandora.
So Pandora's getting her own book, and again, Pandora's the character they had at the beginning of every single first issue of the DC Universe. She was there, and she kind of knows what's going on and kind of how the universe is different, right?
And she showed up in Flashpoint too. At the end of Flashpoint.
So there's kind of a thing there, and again, that's part of continuity now, right?
Yeah.
And also, Andre, did you hear about this? The brother Lano?
No.
What?
No.
Brian Azzarello, he's doing more 100 Bullets. It's a brother Lano miniseries.
Wow.
Because how the end with Lano is kind of ambiguous. They're going back and you're doing 5 issues with him and Eduardo Rizzo.
Yeah.
All about that damn mean son of a bitch.
That's
Lano.
really kind of funny because just the other day I dug up some of Brian Azzarello's old his Deathblow series.
Yeah.
Remember that short-lived Wildstorm run on Deathblow? Azzarello, one of the greatest writers out there. Period. But back to some of the Marvel stuff. This week, Marvel's. First, I guess,
Age of Ultron.
Age of Ultron, a little bit of
I got sidetracked there.
An event book, shall we say, with the really cool. It's not a retro cover, but it's definitely a '90s inspired cover. It's actually a pretty cool cover. You've got Golden Ultron, crushing Iron Man and Cap's head, standing over the Hulk, flying forward, and the reflection in his dome there, his nice shiny golden Ultron head is Hawkeye taking a shot. And
best Avenger ever.
Yeah, and this
main character, it looks like, of this event too.
Of this little event,
Stu just looked at me like he wanted to kill me.
The first issue is pretty cool. Written by Bendis, art by Hitch and Neary. It's got the little bit of a post-apocalyptic event. Definitely something has happened in the Marvel U. We haven't been privy to it, where all the heroes are either dead or on the underground. They're in hiding. The the place is just
Some
like
bad stuff's gone down.
yeah,
Ransacked.
just ransacked. Think of
Things
kind
aren't
of
great.
like a Fallout type of atmosphere
absolutely.
and stuff. You know.
Or Age of Apocalypse,
Yep.
whichever you can choose.
Well,
Yep.
you know what? I think in
Age
Age
of
of
something?
Apocalypse it was a little bit more
Dystopian.
dystopian.
Yeah.
But yeah. So first issue is really cool. We see Hawkeye. Kicking down some doors and shooting people left, right, in the center. This is not the hero we know because people get shot in the face with arrows and they must be dead.
They probably deserved it.
Yeah. Oh no, they definitely deserve it. And it was a really great reveal in there. He was breaking into a building that was under the protection of the Owl. And the criminal, and it was pretty cool because he's Hawkeye's doing his things, taking them all down, and he's freeing Spider-Man. Peter Parker's trapped in the bottom of this abandoned basement apartment type of or apartment complex, and it was a really cool moment where he breaks them out. They're on the run. A whole bunch of Ultron units fly in to decimate the area. They of course escape as the heroes should, but when they get back to the hideout, the other surviving Avengers don't want them back. They're like, "Hey, Hawkeye, you left. When you said you left, you're gone."
There's
right?
no room in the shelter.
Yeah, so it was
That's
really
crazy.
you see the heroes basically defeated, and all through as I'm reading this, I'm like, okay, they better do some flashbacks because I want to see how the world got to this point.
It's 10 issues.
Yeah, it's 10 issues. It's coming out bi-weekly, so the next issue comes out, I believe, March 13th. So I'm looking forward to it. Good art, as I mentioned. The only thing I'm going to say about the art is I think Hitch needs a memo about all the costume changes because I don't see the Marvel Now Captain America or Spider-Man costume changes. I think Iron Man's got his proper colors
Maybe it's
on
an
there.
alternate history.
It could be, but Marvel's kind of toting it as it's
Hulk's wearing brown
its-
pants. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so we'll see.
He's only on for the first half of the book.
Is he?
Yeah. And then it's Brendan Pearson.
What?
So let's,
Oh, the
let's-
art.
Brendan Peterson takes over?
Art's changing. Yeah, but I guess
Well, then.
bi-weekly they have to do it. Maybe it's going to be like how they did AVX.
Yeah, there's the-
AVX. They changed up the art and stuff. But anyways, yeah, really really cool book. So definitely check it out if you're a Marvel fan. I think it's going to shock us in some interesting ways. So let's move on now to the segment where we talk about some of the independent stuff and the Vertigo stuff. Couple really good picks. I'm going to start with my favorite one here. I mentioned it probably about a month ago. It's the Jenkins and Ramos Fairy Quest. So this is book 2 of 2. It's only a little two-parter, so a very good small book to digest. Great art, great story. It's a lot of fun. It's a twist on the fairy tales. It's lighthearted. Red Riding Hood is friends with the big bad wolf, and she wants to stop the oppressive storytellers. So picture the fairy tale characters are stuck in a rut. They have to keep doing the same story over and over, but they're changing it up. I really hope this book has done well for these two gentlemen. It's published by Boom Studios because I definitely want to see some more.
It's a very good looking book.
Very good looking book. We got both issues in stock, so you should come in and check them out. My Little Ponies.
The hotness.
The hotness. It's on number 4. There's a micro series, IDW. Like, we are selling more My Little Pony stuff than I thought possible. Great for kids of all ages, male or female.
And it's actually funny if dad has to read it as well, or mom and dad need to, read their kids' material first or whatever. It's actually, you get a couple of chuckles out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm very impressed.
So continuing on the Image hot streak of great books that are coming out by awesome creators. One of my favorite creative teams, Andy Diggle and Jock, bring us Snapshot number 2. First issue was really, really crazy. Second issue just as hyper, just as kinetic. It kicks off where the last issue left off, and it was just a wow. It was
This kid's found himself in quite this predicament.
In this
and
weird
it's
predicament.
Crazy. You're just sort of like, it's almost like every decision he can make is wrong.
Is
It's
wrong,
like
yeah.
He's trapped.
And like I said, the art's fantastic. It's black and white, and I'm not usually a big fan of black and white books, but Jock can do it.
Jock's awesome.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You definitely got to check
It's not like
this
a
out.
military book or anything like that.
No,
'Cause
it's-
typically that's what Andy Diggle and Jock
No,
are
it's
kind of
got a
associated with.
conspiracy thing, and there is some gun violence in the book and
There's a
stuff.
Well, I found
picture
out-
on the cover is a kid on a bike, right?
Yep, and he's on the
stunt
run.
bike, yeah.
he's definitely booking it.
He's on the run. So yeah, it's a very, very cool book. Definitely want to check it out. It's only a 4-issue limited series. I believe we have a couple of them in stock still too of the first issue. So every now and again, we take a chance on a book. Something in the previews catalog looks really cool. And so this week, we bring you Sex Number 1. And,
yes, the very title
It's
indicates that it should be a top seller.
Yeah. So, what can I say about sex? So, anyway,
We can say a lot of things.
so the
Special
first
guest appearance
issue,
by John Ho.
the first issue was pretty crazy. It was definitely not the book that I was thinking it was going to be about. It's got like a little bit of a future twist. They got some corporations. They
Is
got
sex
some
an acronym for
conspiracy.
something, or is it
It is
actually
not. I like not from what I've got
There are no
so
dots
far.
in between the letters.
Yeah. So it's pretty crazy. Now, I thought it was going to be just the title to grab you. So this book is a little explicit. So you definitely, this is not going to be sold to anybody who's under the age of 18. There is some nudity in the book, of course, but it's not the focus of it. I think it's definitely
It's not gratuitous in the sense that it's
it's not
nudity
just
for nudity's sake.
Yeah,
it definitely feels like
it's going to have a place.
There's a reason, yeah.
But stick with this podcast because I'm going to review every issue and make sure that they're not just trying to say, well, sex sells. Let's put it on a title and.
Well, it's pretty
bring
funny.
it
They
out.
have sex on the cover with a big X, and they also have first issue in big bold letters.
Yeah.
And they also have collector's item in big letters, too.
Yeah, so it's definitely
They're just missing buy this now, please.
Yeah, covering all
Yes.
the bases.
So
Yours for 3 easy payments of 89 cents.
pretty cool stuff though. Again, it's an image number 1. We've seen a lot of hot books, Saga, Manhattan projects, so you don't want to miss a number 1 if you want to give it a try if you're above the age of 18. And DC Vertigo, they bring us Fairest. Series is still going strong. If you're a fan of the Fables universe, you know that this book is pretty cool. And this is an awesome segue into a new comic coming up by Vertigo. There's been a lot of talk that Vertigo is, declining, decreasing, going the way of the dodo bird. But let me just tell you about a little something that our favorite Heroes World author, I think I can
he's number
say
1 right now.
favorite Heroes World author, Scott Snyder, bringing us a brand new Vertigo title. It's called The Wake, and it's going to be hitting shelves on May 1st. So I just want to talk about that. Put that name in your ear. You guys go to your local store, ask for this issue. It's a new Vertigo, and it's Scott Snyder. Neil mentioned how great Severed was.
The guy knows how to write horror.
This guy can write horror. The cover of this is just fantastic. It's kind of like looks like an amphibious hand trying to break glass. Oh, it's Scott Snyder, as I mentioned, art and cover by Sean Murphy.
What?
And variant cover by Adam
Punk Rock
Kubert.
Jesus?
Time out.
Yeah. So
Sean Gordon Murphy is doing this book.
So this is I'm calling now. This is going to be the new hotness
Yeah, this is
for
gonna be a big
Vertigo.
Agreed.
Also, this week came in restocks of the or second printing. Or is it third printing of Star Wars #1
Yes.
from Dark Horse?
Yep.
Of course, if you listen to our podcast, you heard us talk about that and rave
Huge
about
book.
it.
That book's
Huge
tits,
book.
man. It's
It's awesome. And also, we got in, I believe it's first prints of issue 2 back in stock. And also, one of my favorite books. I know it doesn't sell as well as it could. Star Wars Dark Times, the new series. And this is literally talking about the Jedis and the refugee camp, and the Empire is really bearing down on them. And now they're literally like, how do you not help people in a refugee situation? So it's Star Wars with a little bit of a
Geopolitical twist.
political twist, and it's heartbreaking
Americans
stuff.
put in space.
So really a lot of really good titles out there. So come on by, check them out, pick your favorites.
So yeah, actually, everyone hear the name of the new the Jim Lee Scott Snyder Batman Superman ongoing?
No.
I think it's like Superman. I think it's called Superman Unchained.
Really?
That's it because it's ongoing. So yeah, it's gonna be like a whole book now. There's a look in Andre's eye.
Superman Unchained.
Yeah.
Like Django Unchained.
Yeah, I don't know.
DC changed that title,
But then
please.
we're seeing all those promos for the movie with Superman
Yeah.
in handcuffs, so maybe they're kind of playing off that a little bit.
Well, it's great
you
because
know?
there's it comes out like what was it in May, and that's when the Superman Unbound animated movie comes
Yeah.
out too. So Unbound, Unchained, Man of Steel. I think it's the whole.
Why wouldn't they just call it Superman Man of Steel?
I think
They've done that
I think they're
before.
thinking of doing that, and then it's like, we want to change the title to
We've
that.
already done that already.
Yeah,
something
Simpsons
new,
already did
something
it.
fresh.
yeah. They're moving forward.
Interesting.
So, final thoughts before we wrap up this podcast. I'm sure you guys are well aware that DC is finally throwing up the bat signal and indicated that we're going to let one guy take everything over. We're gonna get one guy to save this failed sinking.
Yeah, but Josh Whedon's busy though.
Yeah, but this guy is worth 4 Josh Whedons. So
Wait, what?
the rumor is right now that they want to call Christopher Nolan to basically run all of it. We'll give you whatever money you want,
Carte blanche.
Oh man,
whatever you want to do.
that guy's gonna be making a mint.
Can we go back in time and get Dark Knight Rises, Christopher
I don't know
Nolan?
what it could be a similar situation as Henry Cavill shows up in that small French restaurant and says, "Wayne, we need you." Boom, gone. Start a movie.
It could happen.
Thoughts-
I've heard he's
thoughts on the
down
fact
if
that
Nolan's
Nolan-
down. So I mean, me being a Nolan fan and a Batman fan and a fan of the trilogy, I'm excited for this. However, everything that I've read regarding Christopher Nolan and superheroes, he doesn't seem to be. Interested is not the word, but it seems he's very reluctant
Well,
to
yeah, I feel he has-
to go all in
He has
on
no
this kind of
reason.
stuff.
He has no interest in actually making a movie about a superhero.
Yeah. So if he can find a way to tap into what we all love about comics and superheroes and
And
sort of
I
find
think-
his muse or find that spark that
It's called
will.
a Brinks truck full of money.
But see, that's my
But that's the
problem.
wrong
That's
reason
like,
to do it
Like,
then.
and that to
and I
me,
think
that's
he would say
that's the
no.
only
then.
reason
I
anyone does
honestly
anything,
think he
really.
would say
But
no.
yeah, and I think
He's like, if I
he
got
rightfully
nothing for
should
you-
because
yeah.
I think at a certain point, if you don't love what you're doing, you shouldn't do it because it's not going to show through. Like I don't know who I would pick to helm. Actually, I know who I would
Who?
pick to Paul Dini. I don't give a fuck if
Yeah.
the guy doesn't make movies. The guy's done created some of the
Yep.
best animated DC
Actually,
stuff.
he can
period.
tap writers on the
he's,
shoulder.
He's
He
written
did,
a
yeah.
whole bunch of stuff. You know what? Like that's who you get, and you let him build. You get somebody that maybe knows actors and other things. Hell, he actually what am I talking? The guy knows voice talent. Half the people that do the DC stuff, voice talent, are big name
Oh, legit.
actors,
Actually,
right?
what's really funny too is
So-
Paul Dini actually like someone tweeted to him like, "Hey, could you please Paul Dini do Justice League?" And he's like, "Well, it's already done in Avengers." He's like, "Well, Batman's your Iron Man's your Batman, Thor's your Superman, the Tesseract's a Mother Box, and eventually Thanos is your Dark Side. Done. That's the whole movie right there." So DC has to the fact that he pointed that out means DC has to kind of come up with something a bit better or kind of different than just that story they could have just
But I
easily
think that
told.
comes with you going
Yeah.
to him and saying, "Listen, can you create something for us?" And
Yeah.
maybe it sounds like to me like they haven't asked yet.
Yeah, Chitauri
or
the Chitauri Parademons.
yeah,
done.
or
That's why I like that movie so much. It's all Kirby.
Like I do think Nolan can do it, and I think he would do a
I don't
good
know
job.
if he can. To be honest with you, I'm not. I think he's a great director. Like, don't get me wrong.
Because I don't think he would do the same that he did with The Dark Knight. I think he would
But do you
sort
think
of.
he can do something that?
Well, I don't know.
Doing a superhero movie, you have to do the fantastic. You
Yeah.
have to suspend your
and
belief.
it has to be a little lighter than his stuff has been. I fully admit that.
or it's not going to work completely.
It's got a little bit more
right?
fun.
Well, not even fun, but the superheroes in general, and especially the DC ones, they are all larger than life. They are brighter.
Or they're
they are
mythic.
colorful. Yeah, they are mythic. So you can't you can't down and out all
Do you
of
think that's
them.
the tone of the DC universe that doesn't really influx humor in it? Because Marvel, it's always, even in the comics, I can read any single one, and there's a little bit like the Spider-Man, the
there's a-
off-cuff kind of
Yeah.
jokiness.
I think
to
there's
it.
a little bit of that in DC, but I think not so much as Marvel. I think they do tend to lean a little darker.
yeah, no, DC is definitely
like
more
the-
of an operatic style.
Like Johns has done a
story,
really good
yeah.
job in injecting that sort of in his
I think
Justice
you got to
League
go
run.
by a character basis.
And the Justice League run has been good, but there's been a lot of criticism of it for feeling like a Marvel book, or the guys being a
Right
little
from this
too
guy.
many one-liners. And while I would disagree with that to a point, I definitely see where that comes from. It's sort of not in keeping with DC what they normally do. But I think if you find that right balance between what they did with the Avengers and what Nolan's done with the Batman universe, and try and find a middle ground where it's not so much rooted in reality, but it's not as colorful and as Whedon-esque as should I say, for the Avengers stuff. I truly think Nolan can do it. I think he's a talented enough guy. He's a creative enough guy that he could. But it's again, if he can, he's got to find that muse, that spark that says, "Oh, this is the idea I've got, and I can run with it." And I just right now, everything he says,
the reason that
doesn't seem.
I
to
find the reason that
point to
Avengers
that.
works so well is because there's so many Marvelisms and of things that,
Yep.
from the comic that kind of translate really well, and they have to actually kind of look at DC Comics and be like, listen, you got to be able to So all of this has to come in, or none of, or you can't use any of it because really.
Well,
listen,
how about this? Right now, Arrow that you three watch and you enjoy.
Yeah.
I'm of course not so much, but
I'm half enjoying it, I'll
I'm
be honest
kind of
with you.
in it. Jeff Johns is kind of intricately involved in that. How do you feel the show is at this standpoint? Because I'm griping, but what are your thoughts? Do you feel that right now it's at a point where it's ahead of where
better than Smallville.
Yeah.
But do you think that Avengers, the Shield show, has greater potential? Like, what do you feel that these are?
The thing
gonna
I've
line
noticed
up?
about it is it started off. It very much felt like a CW show. It definitely felt like it was from that network. It was trying to fit in with
It's
the
a soap
fans.
opera.
Yeah, exactly. But gradually, it's kind of turned into, I think, the show that we all kind of were hoping it would be. Now, it still hasn't gotten there yet. It's still kind of finding its legs. But I've been more and more impressed as the episodes have come on that they seem to have they're kind of getting away from the soap opera aspect. It's still very much a soap opera in a lot of ways.
Well, I find there is a bit more humor, almost like humor to it now, because
Yep.
everyone like kind of caught up with what's going on.
Pretty much. Yep.
Because they had that kind of girl who was helping them for a while. She kind of kind of came in with her posse now, and then that episode where Oliver and his buddy did go on dates, and he's like, "How's your dates?" Like, fine. And then they have this kind of
Yep.
so it's kind of funnier now.
Yep.
And listen, you can't be super serious about this, or you should be look like a bunch of maniacs doing this, right?
The thing I always liked about Green Arrow is that he was always the lighthearted
Yeah,
Bruce Wayne.
exactly.
It's very much the same, but
He's kind of
you
a
could always
hippie.
giggle a
Yep.
little bit.
Well, I think it also
like,
came with him being an older character
But-
and that sort of wisdom, and like Grandpa doesn't care. Grandpa, will say whatever he thinks off the top of his
But
head.
I think
'cause he's not-
that's the difference. Like everybody's kind of harped on the show for being too Batman-esque and stuff. And although it isn't as close to the Oliver Queen that we know in the comic books, I think they have done a pretty good job of establishing this Oliver Queen as having the character traits of somebody that would have went through that ordeal.
Yeah.
So in a way, it is. It is very Bruce Wayne-esque. But the show, I think, is finding its own legs, and and aside from the Night Vigilante, I think the cast of characters around it aren't very Batman-like.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well,
And-
it's
and-
kind of like that scene, like back to Nolan for a second, kind of like Inception, where I think we're all thinking that the problem is you tried to become me. I want you to be something different.
Yeah.
And I think if they went an opposite direction rather than making it so a la Dark Knight, just kind of made it more a different tone.
I think that's what they're
would be more
doing, though.
accepting.
I think they're they're taking bits and pieces of different things and
Yeah.
kind of injecting the show with that, and hopefully naturally it will evolve and, like we said, find its legs and basically
Again.
determine what it will become for future seasons. And I like in the statement to you can't have you can't be all things to all people. I think the show is trying to be that in a way. It's trying to serve have a few laughs, have the great action,
Yeah.
have a little bit of soap opera,
Well, again,
have
like,
the comic book insider
Because
stuff
again,
as well.
CW is genetically it's a network for girls. Let's be honest. It's overall, they have that dreamy, the dreamy dude, and wait, are we still on mic? Oh crap! Oh yeah. Never mind that. But overall, they have the stuff for girls.
Hey, I watch Supernatural. Come on now, what are you trying to say?
Two good-looking boys. Yeah.
But yeah, so you have that kind of going on. But then overall, again, the show it has enough action to kind of keep things moving, for the dudes. And then
So
as well
hold on a second. Now you got me thinking here.
Yeah.
So if I watch Charmed,
yeah.
is that considered a dude show because it's three chicks?
No.
Is it-
No.
Well,
That's all girls.
Like
Like
Gilmore
Gilmore
Girls,
Girls.
it's for girls, but guys watch it.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Because you can make me feel bad that I'm watching
Vampire Diaries
Supernatural and stuff.
Vampire
and-
Diaries is for girls, but
I'm a
guys
man,
watch it.
yo. I'm a
Really
man.
is for girls. In
Apparently
a
that
lot of
show's
ways.
good. Everyone's talking about it. I have no interest in watching.
It's
Whereas initially it was.
so now we're talking about. So you're all kind of good on the show, but
Yeah.
when looking at the Shield show, it's the pilot has been filmed. There's no real big star. There's no Coulson. There's no Mara Hill. There's nobody really yet.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that show?
I'm okay with it.
What's it? Without a big star, you're
Well,
fine with.
It's got to be quality, and I think Whedon can bring the quality. So,
But he's not writing it.
But it's like John's being kind of steering the ship with the whole Lantern
Yeah.
universe. He may not be writing everything, but his sort
his
of
brother is.
and his sort of way works.
What I find
So-
with the concept of the Shield show, it's this is kind of a way to show the depth of the Marvel universe and kind of stuff that kind of is there.
If they go there now, I'll say this on the Avengers Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had like a little pilot or I don't know what it was, a little
Item
short
43?
film, Item 43.
Yeah.
And I will say, like, personally, I thought that was a pile of poop.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, maybe it cost them $10 to make it or whatever. They wanted to have some
They had the
fun
actors
with
there
it,
already and-
or whatever. But if that's what the show's going to be like, I've got no interest in it. And I think,
Well, the concept's interesting to me because it's like, well,
but again, the concept, like, you know, I know it was only a short, and maybe they can change it. But you know, if you guys haven't watched it, basically what happens is, you know, two regular people find a Chitauri weapon, and the guy can make it work. So they decide to try and rob a bank. And you know, they get away with it, but a SHIELD agent tracks them down, and you know, subdues them, gets the weapon, and then both of them get offered a job in SHIELD. And I'm just like, wow, that's corny, terrible television to me. If that's how SHIELD's going to be, like, you got a no-name, you know, crew of no actors or whatever to try and lead the show. If they wanted to give me more of the SHIELD that I saw at the beginning of Avengers, like some scientists, some people doing stuff, you know, you could have like an off-site kind of really hardcore agent. You could bring in any of the famous SHIELD agents.
Well, again, you got to really think about it. Like, you know, it's not until recently, like over the past decade, that TV stars have been like guys you know from other things first. So most times, just like, you know, oh, this new show's coming on.
All the cast of 90210 originally were unknowns, or like 21 Jump Street. That whole crew was unknowns.
They were on
until
90210. That's where you saw them.
But remember, Marvel's at this whole mindset of we're not giving you money.
Yep.
We're
we
gonna
make the stars.
We make stars.
It's the material that elevates the star rather than the star.
So the best way to do that is to.
So how are they justifying who they want for Guardians of the Galaxy?
So this is how they do it. So the method is you sign your contract before you audition. So the way they've done it in the past is that you sign your contract, the 8-movie deal, whatever, and this is your rate. Then you audition, and if we like you, we sign you. So there's no negotiation. So I think that's one thing where Jason Mothma, the guy that was in Khal Drago and in Stargate, he was in talks to play Drax, right? So he's like, I want more money. It's like, well, look what we did with Chris Hemsworth. Look what we did with Chris Evans. Look what we did with Robert Downey Jr.
Your rate
want
goes
to
up.
build that brand, you come in cheap, and then we'll build you up, and then you can do whatever you want afterwards.
Yeah, and also that guy can't.
That's some cahoonies, eh?
But it's Marvel. It's Disney. It's Marvel. It's like, look at the machine that we can forge out for you.
Well, look at
and
again,
Helmsworth is.
You know what?
Look at Robert Downey Jr. because he signed like he wasn't the highest paid guy in Iron Man, yet he made the most money on Avengers than anybody.
Yeah.
So like, you know, that's kind of like, you know, where you kind of like,
once they reach a certain point, they do
Chris
have
Hemsworth,
some.
what was he
cachet.
before? He was an extra in Star Trek. He was in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
He was in a couple B movies that
George Kirk.
were made beforehand. He was in an Australian TV show, and now, oh my gosh, it's Thor, God of Thunder. I need to see this movie.
He's in every movie.
He basically became the main attraction for Snow White and the Huntsman, and you're like, oh, he's barely kind of in that movie.
Yeah. So again, it kind of. Again, and Khal Drago, like, that guy's got a lot of goddamn nerve after doing that shitty Conan movie, asking for anything. John Ho can attest, right, John Ho?
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
That was pretty bad. But, you know, there's potential. I know what you're saying, that it's not the tone that you want for
And it maybe limits
the SHIELD.
some of the upper echelon talent that you could get on the show or on a movie that might make it better. But at the same time, you know, it's
But at the same
it's kind
time,
of
you know what? But TV shows always have those during March sweeps or April sweeps.
Yeah.
Oh, that big star shows up. It can't be hard for Marvel to be like, you know what? Jump on that freaking. Can we get a guest star? Because Friends got everyone. Brad Pitt, all that.
Well, didn't they sign like Ruffalo to like a 7 or 9 appearance contract?
Yeah.
So it's not so much they're going to make movies around the whole character. They've signed him up to
should be
show up
around,
and
yeah.
stuff. So you know, get him to show up in an episode of Shield or whatever.
Well, I think, yeah, like I said, I think if they're going to do the SHIELD show, I think it needs to have some of the fun, but I think it has to be serious as well. Because if they don't take it serious, people aren't going to come back for it. I don't think you can have a humorous SHIELD show with like Agent Coulson-esque, you know, lines and mannerisms. I don't think that's
Well,
that's
when
a
you're
long
fighting
time
the Serpent
draw.
Society, how serious can you actually be? You know, they're giant guys wearing snake costumes.
Or Hydra.
I can take Hydra seriously.
Yeah,
I can take AIM seriously.
Yeah, AIM,
I think
but
we'll know very
I take AIM
quickly
very
what kind of show
seriously.
it is and what kind of legs it'll have. You know,
Well, I think as long as they take the subject matter seriously, and like you know, one of the shows that caught me off guard that I liked was Once Upon a Time.
Yeah,
and it is kind of hokey and cheesy at parts, but the show never makes fun of itself. It takes everything seriously. Like, yes, they are all, you know, fairy tale characters, but they do it I think, to the best of their ability in the show. Like when the show does their flashbacks into Fairyland, it's like, yeah, they try and get pretty decent costumes. The sets all look good, so they're not just blue screening it and here's a rubber sword. So I think as long as they take the material seriously, and to me, Shield is something precious in the Marvel universe. But I'm a comic guy, of course. Like
Marvel has money to burn on something like this. They're not gonna go half. Because remember, Bucky showed up in Once Upon a Time. So if he shows up as the Mad Hatter, you don't think he could show up for an episode of Shield? It's not beneath him. Gotta eat. Guys gotta eat. So
I agree, but it depends on, like I said, depends on the tone of the show and so
and what they're going for.
And what
they're looking at theme parks and rides and how much how can they churn out more money. So they're probably already even with that $4 million
they want a weekly show to work because it's good for the brand, it's good for everything else attached to Disney and Marvel, and it's just another way to grab eyeballs.
It's one step closer to Heroes for Hire, the TV show.
Woo!
I'm saying.
I'm down.
I want some Luke Cage in my life. All right, gentlemen, that's going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you for all listening.
All right, everybody.
So where can we find more of you, Neil?
I pretty much hang out on the Heroes World Forum, so you can catch me there. I'm Young Neil. I do the weekly kind of wrap-up of what's coming up. I do my top 10 at the end of the month. I do, what books are selling. So again, if you have any questions or if I'm not reviewing a book that you think I should be reviewing, get on there and chirp me.
Andre?
Hey, I'm at the store all the time. Pretty much live here. I love it. You can also find me on our Facebook group. We got a couple of them, Heroes World and Heroes World Citizen, and as well as on our forum.
And Justin?
You can find me, again, I'm around the store. I'm a man about town. I'm everywhere. And also on Twitter.
Man of leisure.
Yep. Also on Twitter at This Just In Comic. Keep looking for me.
Awesome. Well, thanks, everyone, for listening to the Heroes World podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always. Come on in the store and check things out. See you later.
Be seeing you.
Later.